My boyfriend raised a champagne glass in front of 46 members of my family and announced that I was too successful to deserve a husband. For 3 full seconds, I thought I had misunderstood him. The July sun glittered across Lake Lanier behind him, the rented string quartet had just finished my parents' favorite song, and a waiter was passing trays of crab cakes beneath the white lights I had spent all morning hanging from the oak trees. Everything about the evening had been arranged for love. My parents, Daniel and Margaret Bennett, were celebrating their 35th anniversary at the lake house outside Atlanta. My boyfriend, Andrew Collins, had spent the previous month asking suspicious questions about ring sizes and whether my father preferred private conversations or grand gestures. I had let myself believe that the next toast would be a proposal. Andrew smiled as if he were delivering a verdict he had rehearsed. "Claire is brilliant," he said. "Nobody can deny that. She works harder than anyone I know, earns more than most men our age, and always has an answer. But after 2 years, I finally understand that a woman can be impressive and still not be the kind of woman a man builds a home with." The little muscles around my mother's mouth tightened. My father stared at his plate. My younger sister, Lily, stood across the patio in a pale yellow dress, gripping the stem of her glass so hard that her knuckles had gone white. "What are you doing?" I asked. Andrew released my hand. "Being honest. There will always be a campaign, a flight, or a client more important to you than a family. I want children who know their mother. I want peace when I come home. I don't want to spend my life competing with my wife's ambition." A fork struck a plate somewhere behind me. No one spoke. These were the relatives whose vacations I had booked, whose resumes I had rewritten, whose hospital bills I had quietly helped cover when money was tight. Not one of them told him to sit down. My father finally cleared his throat. "Andrew, this didn't need to happen in front of everyone." My mother touched his forearm. "Sometimes the truth hurts, Daniel. Andrew has the right to want a woman who values home." There it was, the sentence that had shaped my entire childhood. Lily valued home. Claire valued achievement. Lily was warm. Claire was intimidating. Lily needed help. Claire would land on her feet. I was 32, a senior brand strategist for a national food company, and I had spent the last year shrinking myself to fit the life Andrew claimed he wanted. I turned down a keynote in Toronto because it fell on his birthday weekend. I stopped mentioning bonuses after he said my success made him feel like an accessory. I learned to cook his mother's pot roast even though he arrived late the first 3 times I made it. When my promotion came through, I waited until after his failed partnership review to tell him. He accused me of timing the news to humiliate him. Now he was using the concessions I had made as proof that I had never made enough. "Did you plan to humiliate me here?" I asked. He straightened his shoulders. "I plan to end this cleanly. You deserve to understand why." "No. You wanted an audience." Several cousins looked down. Aunt Denise began rearranging napkins. My mother whispered, "Claire, do not make a scene." I laughed once, though tears had already begun to burn behind my eyes. "The scene was written by your guest." I walked into the house for my purse. The hallway smelled of lemon polish and the gardenias my mother floated in bowls whenever company came. As I passed the pantry, I heard Lily's voice behind the half-closed door. "You went too far." She looked destroyed. Andrew answered in the calm tone he used with nervous clients. "It had to be decisive. If I ended it privately, she'd argue for months." "What happens now?" "We wait a few weeks. Your mother said everyone will understand when we announce us at Labor Day dinner. They'll see you're the right sister." My heartbreak did not feel like glass breaking. It felt like a door locking. I pushed the pantry door open. Lily jumped backward and hit a shelf. Andrew did not even look ashamed. "How long?" I asked. "Claire," Lily breathed. "How long?" Andrew folded his arms. "Don't make this uglier than it needs to be. I wasn't asking you." I kept my eyes on my sister. "How long, Lily?" She began crying before she answered. "It wasn't supposed to happen." "That isn't a length of time." 6 months. 6 months. While I was paying the deposit on the lakehouse caterer because my parents could not afford the anniversary party they wanted, my sister had been sleeping with the man who helped me choose the menu. "We never wanted to hurt you," she said. Then not sleeping with my boyfriend would have been a strong opening move. My mother appeared in the hallway, shutting the patio door behind her. "Lower your voice. People can hear." I turned to her. Something in her face answered the question before I asked it. "You knew." "I knew Andrew found a kind of peace with Lily that he didn't have with you." "You knew." "I was trying to prevent years of misery. You and Andrew brought out the worst in each other. Lily is gentler. She actually wants the kind of life he wants. Andrew stood between us like a prize being reassigned." "Did Dad know?" My mother's eyes moved away. "Your father doesn't need every unpleasant detail." That was the moment I understood this was not a love triangle. It was a family decision made in rooms where I was discussed like an inconvenient expense. I do not remember saying goodbye. I remember the gravel shifting beneath my heels, the hot steering wheel under my palms, and my phone vibrating across the passenger seat as I drove toward Atlanta. Halfway down the highway, an old shared cloud account synced to my tablet. A new album appeared, Our Life, L. I pulled into a gas station because the road had begun to blur. There were 83 photographs. Andrew and Lily at a jazz club the night he told me. He was preparing for trial. Andrew kissing her beside a cabin in Blue Ridge. Lily wearing his Emery sweatshirt in a hotel bed. My mother at brunch with them, smiling over a vase of tulips. The first image was dated 6 months earlier. The last showed a diamond ring beside a receipt from a Buckhead jeweler. The deposit had come from the joint account Andrew and I opened for the condo we planned to buy. I opened the banking app. Of the $78,400 in that account, $66,000 had come from my paychecks and annual bonus. The ring cost $18,700. The man who had just declared me unfit for marriage had bought my sister's engagement ring with my future. I spent that night at my best friend Rebecca's townhouse in Decatur because I could not walk into the apartment I shared with Andrew and look at our coffee cups. Rebecca was a litigation paralegal with the patience of a saint and the organizational instincts of a federal prosecutor. She listened without interrupting, made tea I did not drink, and placed a legal pad in front of me at 2 a.m. We are going to separate pain from facts, she said. Pain gets to be messy. Facts get folders. By dawn, she had printed the photographs, the bank statements, and every message that had appeared in the shared album. She made 3 backups and emailed one to an account Andrew did not know existed. You will not beg these people to believe you, she said. You will show them what they chose not to see. On Monday morning, I went to the bank with identification, statements, and the account agreement. Because either owner could withdraw funds, I transferred only the amount I could document as mine, leaving Andrew's contributions untouched. Then I removed myself from the account and sent a formal notice through an attorney Rebecca recommended. Andrew called 14 times before using a number from his law office. You stole our savings, he shouted. Our savings bought my sister's ring. Silence lasted just long enough for me to know he had not expected me to see the receipt. Lily understands how to build a life with me, he said. You only understand transactions. Then she can finance that life. I hung up and blocked the number. The apartment lease was in both names. I packed my clothes and work files while Andrew was at the office, photographed every room, and left the keys with the property manager. The only thing I took that belonged to both of us was a cheap ceramic bowl we had painted on our first date. I threw it in a dumpster before driving away. For the next week, my family worked harder to manage my reaction than they had ever worked to prevent the betrayal. Aunt Denise texted that public humiliation was unfortunate, but affairs happened in complicated relationships. A cousin suggested that forgiveness would prove I was the mature one. My mother wrote that Lily had barely slept and that my coldness was damaging her mental health. No one asked whether I had slept. Then my cousin Nicole, ashamed of what she had witnessed, sent me screenshots from a family group chat I had never been added to. My mother had spent months describing me as incapable of commitment. She said Andrew needed a present woman, not a corporate machine. She told relatives that Lily would be a more loving mother and that sometimes life corrected an obvious mismatch. One voice recording was made 3 days before the anniversary party. Andrew needs to end it in front of everyone, my mother said. If he does it alone, Claire will wrap him up in arguments and money. Publicly, she will have to accept it. Listening to my mother's voice hurt more than the hotel photographs. Andrew had betrayed the woman I was. My mother had betrayed the child I had been, the girl who spent years believing she could earn equal love by becoming useful. I did not begin with revenge. I began with work. The Monday after the party, I walked into a conference room where 9 executives expected me to ask for time off. Instead, I presented the campaign I had nearly abandoned to protect Andrew's ego. The plan repositioned a failing family food brand around real multi-generational kitchens instead of staged perfection. When the president asked whether I could lead the national rollout, I heard Andrew saying a flight would always matter more than a family. Yes, I said. I can. I also returned to therapy. Dr. Mayachin never let me confuse endurance with loyalty. You keep asking why they chose Lily, she said during our 3rd session. A more useful question may be why your family needed one daughter to be less so the other could feel like enough. The answer reached backward. When I won a scholarship, my mother asked me not to celebrate because Lily had failed a math test. When I bought my first car, I was told to let Lily drive it because she felt behind. When Dad needed hip surgery, I arranged the specialists, paid the insurance deductible, and later took out a $145,000 home equity-style renovation loan in my name so the lake house could be made accessible. My mother thanked Lily publicly for keeping the family together because she lived nearby and brought soup twice. I had not been unloved. I had been assigned the role of infrastructure. Bridges are praised only when people fear they might collapse. 2 weeks later, a woman named Carla Monroe messaged me on LinkedIn. I dated Andrew before you, she wrote. I saw Lily's engagement post. There is something you need to know. We met at a coffee shop near Piedmont Park. Carla was 36, a civil engineer with watchful brown eyes and the careful posture of someone who had once been called dramatic for telling the truth. She showed me messages from 3 years earlier. Andrew told her she was too ambitious, too argumentative, too masculine in conflict. He said a man wanted softness at home. Then he left her for her cousin Madison, claiming Madison represented peace. The relationship lasted 5 months. He creates a competition between women, Carla said. If you're fighting to prove you're softer, kinder, prettier, or more loyal than the other woman, neither of you looks directly at him. Why didn't you warn me? I tried once. He told mutual friends I was stalking him. I lost 2 friendships and almost lost a contract because his firm represented the developer. I promised myself I would never interfere again. She looked down at her coffee. Then I saw your sister wearing a ring and your mother praising destiny. I recognized the script. I asked permission to copy the messages. Carla agreed, but only after I promised not to publish her private history. Without warning. That Friday, a cream envelope arrived at Rebecca's house. My mother had addressed it in calligraphy. You are formally invited to the engagement dinner of Lily Bennett and Andrew Collins. Your attendance would demonstrate maturity and allow our family to heal. The dinner would be held at the lake house I was still helping pay for. After Dad's surgery, the family had needed a wheelchair-accessible bedroom, wider bathroom doors, and a safer path to the dock. My parents could not qualify for affordable financing, so I had taken the renovation loan and paid $1,430 every month. My mother told guests Lily had made the home possible by staying close. She never mentioned my signature. Rebecca watched me read the invitation. You do not owe them a performance. They think my silence is permission to rewrite what happened. What are you planning? I opened the black binder. Containing the photographs, audio files, bank records, apartment inventory, and Carla's messages. I'm not going to stop the wedding, I said. I'm going to make sure nobody celebrates a lie believing I accepted it. Before the dinner, I did something Rebecca initially hated. I called my father. Did you know about Andrew and Lily before the anniversary? He took too long. Your mother said Andrew had doubts. She said Lily was helping him think. Did you know they were sleeping together? No. Did you know Mom planned the public breakup? Claire, your mother handles family matters differently than you do. That is not an answer. He sighed. I knew she wanted Andrew to make a clean break. I did not know the details. You watched him humiliate me. I was shocked. You were seated. He had no response. That call mattered because it cured me of the fantasy that my father had simply missed everything. He had trained himself not to ask questions whose answers might require courage. On the afternoon of the engagement dinner, I wore a dark green dress I had bought for the Toronto keynote I never attended. It fit like the life I had postponed, elegant, direct, and entirely mine. Rebecca drove separately with a backup laptop and the evidence stored on 2 encrypted drives. My mother met me at the door with visible relief. Thank you for not embarrassing us, she whispered. Dinner hasn't started yet. Her smile flickered. The dining room was decorated with white roses and gold candles. A large photograph of Lily and Andrew stood beside the fireplace. Lily's left hand rested prominently on his chest, the ring I had mostly paid for catching the afternoon light. More than 30 relatives and friends filled the room. A few looked surprised to see me. Others gave me approving smiles, as if I had arrived to bless the theft of my own life. Dad hugged me awkwardly. I'm glad you're here. Maybe we can put this behind us. That depends on how much truth this room can tolerate. He studied my face but did not ask what I meant. During dinner, Lily avoided my eyes. Andrew performed gratitude. He praised my mother's wisdom, my father's generosity, and Lily's quiet devotion. When he said he had finally found a woman who understood partnership, my cousin Nicole stopped eating. At dessert, Andrew rose with a glass of champagne. I want to thank this family for welcoming me where I was always meant to be. My mother began clapping before he finished. I stood and connected my phone to the television they intended to use for engagement. Photographs. Before the toast, I said, I brought a family memory. The first photograph filled the screen, Andrew kissing Lily outside the Blue Ridge cabin 6 months before he ended our relationship. My mother's champagne flute slipped from her hand and shattered across the hardwood floor. Lily rose so quickly her chair struck the wall. Turn that off. Why? I asked. I thought tonight was about celebrating your love story. The second image showed them at the jazz club, the date glowing in the corner. The third showed Andrew entering Lily's apartment on the day he texted me from what he claimed was a courthouse hallway. Guests began whispering. Dad turned toward my mother. How long did you know? She opened her mouth, but I played the recording. Andrew needs to end it in front of everyone. If he does it alone, Claire will wrap him up in arguments and money. Publicly, she will have to accept it. My mother's voice filled the dining room with chilling clarity. Dad pulled his hand away from hers. You arranged that humiliation? I was protecting Lily's future, she said. Claire always lands on her feet. Lily needed a chance to be chosen. Not by my boyfriend, I said. And not with my money. I displayed the bank statement beside the jewelry receipt. Andrew moved toward the remote, but Rebecca stepped from the doorway and blocked him. Don't, she said. Andrew pivoted to the room. Claire is turning a private breakup into a public spectacle. That account belonged to both of us. It did, I said. And the record shows who deposited $66,000 of the $78,400. It also shows that you paid $18,700 for Lily's ring while you were still sleeping in my bed. Lily looked down at her hand as if the diamond had become an insect. You told me the money was from your year-end bonus. Andrew's expression tightened. It was effectively mine. Claire and I were building a life together. You were building one with me and billing her for it, Lily said. Don't let her manipulate you. She has always wanted you to feel inferior. That was almost clever because it contained a piece of truth. I had resented the rules that favored Lily. Sometimes resentment had made me impatient. Andrew counted on my imperfect history to erase his deliberate deception. I do not need to manipulate my sister, I said. You already did that. But there is someone else who knows the method. Carla did not attend. With her permission, Rebecca played a short recorded statement. Carla displayed redacted screenshots and described the phrases Andrew had used: too ambitious, not feminine enough, not built for a home. He had replaced her with a relative and told both women that the other was the problem. Lily covered her mouth. Was I just part of your game? You knew you were the other woman, I told her. You are not innocent. But you can still decide whether you will become his next victim. She looked from me to Andrew, crying without the theatrical sobs my mother usually rewarded. Then she pulled off the ring and set it on her dessert plate. I'm not marrying you. Andrew's charm vanished. This is all Claire's fault. She cannot stand losing. She needs to be superior in every room. Dad stood. His chair legs scraped hard across the floor. Get out of my house. Mr. Bennett, you don't understand. I understand that you lied to both of my daughters and my wife helped you do it. Andrew stared at me with naked hatred. You think you won? No, I said. I think everyone finally saw you. He left through the front door, still insulting me. Nobody followed. For a moment, the room was silent except for the sound of ice shifting in a water pitcher. Then my mother turned on me. Are you satisfied? You destroyed your sister's engagement. The last thread connecting me to the mother I kept hoping she might become snapped quietly. You damaged both your daughters the day you decided one of us had to lose for the other to feel chosen. I removed a final folder from my bag and placed it on the table. It contained the renovation loan agreement, proof of every payment, and a letter from my attorney. My monthly payments end today. The loan is secured by a private agreement requiring reimbursement if the house is sold or refinanced. You have 60 days to assume the debt or list the property. I will not keep financing the stage where you taught me to hate myself. Dad closed his eyes. Claire, I didn't know about the money for the ring or the recording. You didn't know because not knowing was easier while everyone blamed me. He did not argue. For the first time that night, shame reached his face without being converted into self-defense. I left before coffee. I did not take Lily home. I did not hug my mother. Truth did not create an obligation to forgive on schedule. The first twist came 4 days later, when Andrew's managing partner called me. He did not ask about the affair. He asked about a document visible for 2 seconds in one of the photographs from Lily's apartment. A billing sheet lay open beside Andrew's laptop. The partner had recognized a client code and a handwritten time entry for a hearing that never occurred. Did you alter that image? He asked. No. Do you have the original file with metadata? Yes. Rebecca told me not to speculate. I provided the original photograph only after receiving a formal preservation request. The firm's internal review found that Andrew had inflated hours across 7 client matters. The evidence did not come from revenge, it came from his carelessness while conducting an affair. Carla later connected the firm with 2 former clients who had questioned invoices. Andrew was placed on leave. Within a month, he resigned before he could be fired. Rumors said he moved to Charlotte. I never contacted his employer, posted his messages online, or called the bar association. I simply stopped protecting him from facts that already existed. The second twist arrived through the jeweler. Because most of the ring purchase had been funded from the joint account and Andrew had misrepresented the transaction during a pending condo mortgage application, my attorney requested records. The store produced a financing form bearing my electronic signature. I had never signed it. Andrew had used an old authorization page from our mortgage packet and attached it to the ring purchase. The amount was not large enough to make national news, but it was enough to turn an ugly family betrayal into potential financial fraud. When confronted through counsel, he agreed to repay the full purchase, cover my legal fees, and sign a statement clearing my credit record. The ring was returned. Lily received nothing from the refund. The third twist was the one that changed my family. My attorney's review of the lake house renovation agreement uncovered that my mother had tried to refinance the property 8 months earlier. In the application, she listed Lily as the source of the renovation funds. She had submitted copies of my payment confirmations. After cropping out my name, Dad truly had not known. When the lender called to verify the discrepancy, he realized that my mother's favoritism was no longer merely emotional. She had begun falsifying the family's financial history to make Lily appear responsible and me appear unnecessary. For the first time in 35 years, my father did more than lower his eyes. He withdrew the refinance application, listed the lake house, and moved into a small apartment near his physical therapist. My mother accused him of choosing me. He answered that refusing another lie was not choosing one daughter over the other. Their marriage did not end immediately. It cracked along every line they had painted over. Dad began counseling alone. Mother refused, saying therapists taught children to punish parents. By Thanksgiving, they were living separately. None of this felt like the victory people imagine when they hear a revenge story. I did not wake smiling because Andrew lost his job or because my mother lost her Lakeview. I woke with a jaw sore from grinding my teeth and a phone full of relatives asking me to fix the consequences of choices I had not made. My aunt said selling the house would destroy holiday traditions. Then someone else can buy the house and preserve them, I said. My mother said Dad's apartment was humiliating. Public humiliation builds character, remember? It was the cruelest thing I said to her. I regretted the sentence, but not the boundary behind it. Lily wrote to me repeatedly. Her first apology was filled with explanations about loneliness. Her second blamed Andrew. Her third asked me to remember how our mother had compared us. I answered none of them. Nearly 1 year after the engagement dinner, an email arrived with no dramatic subject line. I betrayed you because Mom trained me to believe I mattered only when I had something you wanted. Andrew saw that wound and used it, but I opened the door. I lied to you. I accepted your money when you paid my tuition, then helped people call you selfish. I wore a ring bought with your savings. None of that is your fault. I am in therapy. I do not expect forgiveness or access to your life. I only wanted to name what I did without asking you to. Make me feel better. That apology was different because it did not contain a hidden invoice. I responded with 2 sentences. Thank you for telling the truth. I still need distance. She respected it. 6 months later, we met in a public garden. Lily looked older, not in her face but in the way she occupied her chair without waiting for someone to tell her which sister she was. She had moved out of our mother's home, found a teaching job in Marietta, and begun paying back a small portion of the tuition I had covered. I told her repayment was not a ticket to reconciliation. I know, she said. It is just the first debt I can stop pretending does not exist. We did not hug when we left. But we agreed to meet again. Dad's apology came on an ordinary Tuesday. He asked to meet at a diner, ordered coffee, and placed both hands flat on the table. When Andrew attacked you at the anniversary, I knew. It was cruel, he said. I stayed quiet because challenging your mother would have changed the entire evening. I chose a peaceful table over my daughter. I have made that choice in smaller ways for years. He did not say he was sorry if I felt hurt. He did not remind me that he loved me. He named his action. I don't know what our relationship becomes now, I said. Neither do I. I will accept what you can offer. We began with monthly lunches. Trust returned like circulation to a sleeping limb, slowly, painfully, with no guarantee it would feel the same. My mother never fully accepted responsibility. In her version, Andrew had deceived everyone, Lily had been fragile, Dad had overreacted, and I had used money to punish the family. She wrote long letters about everything she had sacrificed as a mother. None mentioned the recording. For years, I believed healing required her to agree with my reality. Therapy taught me that I could stop submitting evidence to a judge committed to acquitting herself. I changed at work too. The national campaign took me to Chicago, New York, Toronto, and eventually Madrid. On my first flight to Toronto, I opened the email where I had declined the keynote for Andrew. I expected grief. Instead, I felt embarrassed tenderness for the woman who thought love could be secured through absence from her own life. The campaign won an industry award, but the greater achievement was quieter. I stopped apologizing before offering an idea. I stopped laughing when male executives called me intimidating. I hired 2 younger women and made sure praise for their work reached the same rooms where criticism traveled. Rebecca remained my emergency contact and my fiercest editor. On the anniversary of the lake house dinner, she gave me a small ceramic bowl, painted dark green. "For your new keys," she said. The last relationship bowl ended up in a dumpster. This one has a better lease. I bought a small condo in Atlanta with a balcony wide enough for Jasmine and a table for 4. Every dollar of the down payment came from an account no one else could access. The first night, I ate takeout on the floor because the furniture had not arrived. I had never felt more at home. Dating again was harder than professional success. I distrusted compliments that sounded like assessments. When a kind architect named Marcus told me he admired my ambition, I asked what he meant as if cross-examining him. "I mean you care about doing things well," he said. "I also mean I have my own work, so I am not shopping for someone else's light to stand in." We moved slowly. I did not cancel trips to test his affection. He did not sulk when I traveled. Once, after I returned from a 9-day launch, he had stocked my refrigerator and left because he knew I needed sleep. There was no ring hidden in the groceries, no audience waiting for a performance. Just soup, clean sheets, and a note that said, "Welcome home." I used to think dramatic love proved itself in public. Now I know real love often looks almost boring from across a room because nobody is being diminished to make the other person shine. Lily and I eventually rebuilt something, though not the childhood closeness people expected us to resurrect. We became honest adults before we tried to become sisters again. She told me when jealousy surfaced. I told her when old anger made me interpret every request as manipulation. We stopped asking our mother to referee. At Dad's 68th birthday, Lily and I arrived separately and left separately. Mother was not invited because Dad wanted one peaceful meal without denial. Lily handed me an envelope containing the final tuition repayment. "You did not have to pay all of it," I said. "I did for me." Inside was also a copy of the family chat screenshots with her own handwritten note. I saw these messages while it was happening. I stayed silent because I liked being chosen. "I am sorry." The honesty hurt, but clean pain is different from confusion. Clean pain can heal. Carla became an unexpected friend. She started a small consulting firm that helped women-owned construction businesses negotiate contracts. I sent her a client. She sent me a Christmas card with a photograph of herself standing beside a bridge her team had designed. On the back she wrote, "We were never too much. He was simply too small for an equal." There were consequences I had not anticipated, including the collapse of several stories I had told about myself. For years I had believed I was independent because I earned my own money. In reality, I had used money as a substitute for asking whether people loved me. If I paid for dinner, nobody could resent my schedule. If I covered Lily's tuition, my mother might stop calling me self-centered. If I renovated the lake house, Dad might finally say that I was the daughter who held us together. Each payment contained a secret request for affection, which meant every gift created a debt nobody had agreed to repay. Dr. Chen asked me to list the times I had said yes while feeling no. The first page filled in minutes. The second took an hour. There were airline tickets, medical co-pays, wedding gifts, emergency loans, professional introductions, weekend errands, and countless moments when I treated exhaustion as evidence of goodness. "Generosity is not the problem," she said. "The problem is using generosity to audition for a permanent role." I began practicing small refusals. When Aunt Denise asked me to coordinate Thanksgiving because Mother was too emotionally fragile, I said no. When a cousin requested an introduction to our vice president without sending a resume, I declined. When Dad asked whether I could call the real estate agent about the lake house, I gave him the number and told him to call himself. Each refusal produced a wave of guilt followed by an astonishing amount of free time. The sale of the lake house became the family's final test. My mother tried to rally relatives against it, claiming I had engineered the sale to erase 35 years of memories. She posted photographs of Christmas mornings and summer cookouts, never mentioning the loan agreement or altered refinancing documents. Several family members accepted her version because nostalgia was easier to defend than fraud. I did not publish the evidence. I sent one concise email to anyone who contacted me: "The property decision belongs to its owners and creditors. I will not debate private financial records." Then I stopped answering. The house sold to a retired couple from Savannah. After closing costs and reimbursement of the outstanding renovation balance, my parents divided what remained. Dad used his portion for the apartment and long-term medical care. Mother rented a townhome near Lily's old neighborhood, apparently expecting Lily to resume the role of dependent daughter. Lily surprised both of us. She refused to move in. Mom said I abandoned her because you poisoned me, Lily told me during our second meeting. What did you say? I said living alone is not abandonment. Then I went home and threw up. I understood. Boundaries sound clean when printed in books. In the body, they can feel like committing a crime. Did you go back? No. That answer was the first sign that Lily was changing for reasons unrelated to winning me back. At work, the campaign brought another test. Our company hired an outside agency whose creative director, Evan Price, had a reputation for brilliance and intimidation. During our first presentation, he interrupted Hannah 4 times, repeated her strongest idea as his own, and called her research cute. The old version of me would have corrected him politely after the meeting. I would have preserved the room and repaired the person in private. Instead, I stopped the presentation. Hannah was still speaking, I said. Evan smiled. I think we understand the point. Then you understand she should receive credit for it. Hannah, please finish. The room went still in the familiar way rooms become still when a woman refuses to smooth over a man's behavior. My pulse hammered, but I did not add a joke. Afterward, Evan told my boss I was difficult. My boss forwarded me the complaint and asked for context. I sent the meeting transcript, attribution notes, and a proposed collaboration protocol. The next week, Evan apologized to the team. That moment mattered more than the industry award. I had spent years fearing that Andrew was right, that directness made me unfit for love. Now I saw how often people call a woman difficult when accuracy interrupts their comfort. The sale also revealed a fourth family truth, though I no longer thought of every revelation as a twist. While clearing the lake house, Dad found a box containing letters from my grandmother Rose to my mother. In them, Rose praised my mother's older sister for being beautiful and socially gifted while describing my mother as dependable, serious, and likely to manage on her own. My mother had not invented the family system. She had inherited it. Dad thought the letters might help me forgive her. They helped me understand her, I said. Understanding is not the same as volunteering for another injury. The distinction disappointed him, but he accepted it. Pain can explain behavior without purchasing immunity for it. Months later, Mother asked to see me. Against Rebecca's advice, I agreed to meet at a quiet restaurant. I chose a public place, drove myself, and told Dr. Chen in advance. Mother arrived wearing the pearl earrings she used for funerals and serious conversations. She looked smaller without the lakehouse dining room behind her. Your father says I have to take responsibility, she began. Do you think you do? I think mistakes were made. By whom? She looked wounded. This is why conversations with you are impossible. Everything becomes an interrogation. You arranged for Andrew to humiliate me in public. You helped him hide an affair with Lily. You lied about money I paid. Which part would you like me to phrase more gently? I was afraid for your sister. You always had opportunities. She had nothing that was hers. She had a degree I helped pay for, a home, parents who praised her, and a sister who kept rescuing her. Exactly. You made her feel dependent. The logic was breathtaking. My support had become evidence against me, while my mother's favoritism remained love. Why did one of us have to lose? I asked. Because you took up all the space without realizing it. There was the old wound speaking through her. Perhaps Grandmother Rose had once said the same thing. Perhaps Mother had promised herself that her quieter child would never be overlooked, then confused protection with sabotage. I was a child, I said. It was not my job to dim myself so Lily could be visible. Mother's eyes filled with tears. You have always been unforgiving. No. I have forgiven things that were never acknowledged. I am done doing both jobs. She asked what I wanted. A truthful apology with no request attached. And then we can be a family again? That is a request. She stood, left cash for her coffee, and walked out. I cried in my car for 20 minutes. Then I drove home without chasing her. That meeting did not give me closure, but it gave me clarity. My mother wanted reconciliation as proof that her actions were survivable. I wanted accountability as proof that I was real. Those goals could not meet while she treated my pain as a public relations problem. The legal settlement with Andrew took 7 months. His attorney attempted to characterize the forged signature as an administrative misunderstanding. My attorney produced device records showing the financing application came from Andrew's laptop while I was in Denver. Faced with that timeline, he signed the repayment agreement. The day the final transfer cleared, I expected triumph. Instead, I sat at Rebecca's kitchen island staring at the number. It is just money now, I said. That is what it should have been all along, she replied. We used none of it for a revenge trip or extravagant purchase. I restored the amount to my condo fund, paid Carla's consultation fee despite her objections, and donated a small portion to a local legal clinic that assisted victims of financial abuse. I did not put Andrew's name on the donation. One evening, Nicole admitted why no one challenged the anniversary speech. "Your mother told us you knew the relationship was ending," she said. "She said Andrew planned to explain it kindly and that you might perform shock to punish him. Did you believe her?" I wanted to. Believing her meant I didn't have to stand up in front of everyone. Her honesty was ugly and valuable. "You watched me cry." "I know. And you chose the explanation that required nothing from you." "Yes." Nicole apologized without asking me to comfort her. Over time, she became one of the few relatives I trusted. She also corrected the story when others repeated Mother's version. I learned that allies do not have to be flawless at the first moment, but they do have to become braver when the next moment arrives. My relationship with Marcus began after the worst of the legal process. We met during a community housing fundraiser where he was explaining accessible design to a donor who kept confusing ramps with universal design. I noticed his patience before I noticed his face. On our third date, he asked why I flinched whenever he praised my work. I told him the shortened version of Andrew's speech. "That wasn't honesty," Marcus said. "That was cruelty wearing a tie." I laughed so suddenly I frightened the couple at the next table. He never asked me to prove I was healed. When I needed a weekend alone, he made plans with friends. When he felt neglected, he said so without converting the feeling into a judgment of my femininity. We disagreed about money, travel, and how many decorative pillows a couch could reasonably support. Nothing exploded. No relative was recruited as a jury. Healthy conflict initially felt suspicious because it ended without punishment. When our company offered me a 14-month assignment in New York, I almost declined before discussing it. The old reflex moved faster than thought. Then I stopped. "I want this," I told Marcus. "I also care about us." "Both statements can be true," he said. We spent a week examining schedules, finances, and what each of us could realistically sustain. He did not offer to abandon his architecture practice. I did not make myself responsible for eliminating every inconvenience. We agreed to try long distance with monthly visits and a review after 6 months. It was not cinematic. It was partnership. At the 6-month review, we admitted that the distance was exhausting and chose not to make permanent promises under pressure. I completed the assignment, he visited when he could. When I returned to Atlanta, our relationship was stronger not because sacrifice had proved love, but because neither of us had demanded a sacrifice as evidence. Lily's progress was less linear. She dated a man who praised her gentleness, and for 2 months she mistook the familiar language for safety. When he began deciding which friends were good influences, she ended it. "I kept hearing Andrew," she told me. "You listened sooner this time. I wanted to call you the first night, but I knew you weren't my emergency service." That sentence showed more growth than any apology. We eventually spoke about the affair in detail. I learned Andrew had approached her during Dad's birthday barbecue, complaining that I cared more about work than people. He praised Lily for remembering his coffee order. He said my confidence made him feel invisible. Within weeks, he was sending late-night messages and telling her our relationship was effectively over. "When did you know that was a lie?" I asked. She cried. "The first time he kissed me. If it were over, he wouldn't have asked me to hide." "Why continue?" "Because every time Mom compared us, I imagined there would be one thing you could not win. I hated you for making generosity look easy. Then I hated myself for needing it." I did not tell her it was all right. It was not. But the truth finally had a shape neither of us needed to decorate. "I did not win our childhood," I said. "I survived a different assignment." That became the foundation of our new relationship. We stopped comparing injuries to decide who deserved care. Andrew attempted contact twice. The first email blamed stress and claimed he had completed therapy. The second said he wanted to apologize in person so we could both have closure. I forwarded both to my attorney and received no third. Closure had already happened at a table covered in white roses, when his practiced charm failed in front of the people he needed as witnesses. But even that was not the true ending. The true ending came on a Sunday morning when a junior colleague named Hannah texted me. By then, 2 years had passed since the anniversary party. Dates that once felt branded into me had become ordinary squares on a calendar. I could drive north without gripping the wheel when signs for Lake Lanier appeared. I could hear a champagne glass clink without returning to Andrew's speech. Recovery was not forgetting. It was memory losing its authority over the present. On the morning before Hannah's message, I had found the dark green dress at the back of my closet. For a moment I considered donating it. Then I wore it to breakfast with Rebecca. We sat outside beneath striped umbrellas, argued about whether cinnamon belonged in coffee, and planned a weekend hike. No one knew the dress had once been armor. That privacy felt like freedom. Rebecca asked whether I would change anything. I would have left sooner, I said. Before the affair? Before I needed proof that being diminished was harmful. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I had finally understood that betrayal did not begin with a hotel room or a stolen ring. It began each time Andrew treated my joy as an injury and I accepted the diagnosis. My family made that surrender look virtuous because it served them. Learning to recognize the first small erasure was what made the future different. My boyfriend says my promotion makes me less feminine. Am I overreacting because it hurt? I sat on my balcony with coffee. Jasmine climbed the railing. Inside, Marcus was making pancakes badly and singing worse. I thought of the woman I had been, buying floral dresses she disliked, canceling flights, hiding bonuses, and asking permission to be proud. I thought of 46 relatives watching her humiliation and assuming she would land on her feet, as if strength made cruelty harmless. I wrote back. You are not overreacting. A person who loves you does not need your light turned down to recognize his own. Then I added something I wished someone had said to me years earlier. Do not make yourself smaller to discover whether he can become bigger. That experiment always costs the wrong person. I set down my phone and looked through the open balcony door. Marcus had flour on his shirt. He saw me watching and held up a burned pancake with a questioning expression. I laughed and went inside. The best revenge was not Andrew losing my sister, his job, or the money he stole. It was not my mother hearing her own voice expose her in front of the family. It was not the lake house being sold or every carefully arranged lie collapsing under the weight of one honest record. The best revenge was becoming the woman I had been before I started asking permission to matter, ambitious, tender, difficult when difficulty was required, generous without being available for exploitation, and complete without anyone's approval. For most of my life, my family treated me like a bridge. They crossed when they needed something, and complained whenever I asked them to notice the weight. I finally learned that strength does not require remaining in place while other people walk over you. Sometimes strength is closing the road. Sometimes love is letting people face the distance they created. And sometimes karma is not a punishment delivered by fate. It is simply the moment you stop paying the bill for someone else's choices.